You can.
Interesting.
Good. So we're doing World War One today. Introduction. World War One was the major conflict that happens in Europe during the early 1900s. The war started with the assassination of Ferdinand and soon widely spread throughout the world. The war caused many people to die and serves destruction and severe destruction that took several years to recover. World War I was the most brutal conflict in human history.
So I'll be talking a little about the cause of the war. There are a lot of causes that cause the war, but we can actually summarize it in like 4 points, maybe 5. So one of them was the alliances that were formed over the years, and so the thing is, at that time the countries were in a conflict of power, and they were sort of afraid of each other. So they formed alliances, like Germany formed Austria-Hungary and all that. So one of the reasons why so many countries took place in the World War I is not because all of them wanted it, but they were sort of sucked in because of these alliances that they did not think would actually be needed. The other one is imperialism, and I'll just say what imperialism is first. It is when the countries sort of exploit the other country's resources, and in early 1900s that was the major, let's say the major goal of the great empires like the British Empire, which had a lot of colonies and all that. So after a point, of course, those resources wasn't only wanted by one country, so they just sort of started to have conflicts with each other. The militarism is because the countries at that time were actually seeing that there may be a war coming on because of these conflicts between each other. So they started to produce weapons. They started to enroll people, and Germany at that was the number one. And the Britain also increased its efforts because Germany, its enemy, was doing so. And the fourth one is nationalism, because at that time Europe, even now, the Europe consists of so many different ethnicities and so many different nations. So at that time, there were still empires, which we don't have today, but there was Ottoman Empire and there was Austria-Hungary. And the nations or the people in those empires actually wanted to create their own independent countries. So that's one of the other causes. And for instance, the Ottoman Empire was already collapsing because of the rebellions inside its own territories. So here are some of the countries that took place in the war, like the alliance, the Central Powers, and the Triple Entente. And for the Central Powers, we have Germany, Austria-Hungary. Those two had treaties that said they would help each other. And Ottoman Empire, although it wasn't part of these treaties, it was sort of deceived into going to war because Germany attacked Russia. And Russians thought it was the Ottoman Empire. So it was sort of forced into the war. And we have United States, which entered the war later in the war. We have Russia and France and England, which, by the way, England and Russia sort of was like the main forces, and France was, of course, the major place that war took place. So we have a video to show before we go further. So the other thing that made this war so special was because not any war before that was fought in such a great scale, and also before that, the wars would generally take place in such short times, like in the medieval age or at such. A battle would take about a day, but World War One was one of the first modern wars, and a soldier would actually have to dig up trenches and wait in there for who knows how long, and to actually get a territory, they would have to run so long distances while being shot at with cannons and go through barbed wire, and so it was harder for the attacking side, and all these weapons of defense were actually making their jobs so hard. And of course the poisonous gas that was used in the war at some point. So, and those cannon explosions were so rapid that it's said that the level of the ground actually fell by 5 to 10 meters at some places, because the fertile ground was so damaged by all these artillery and sometimes the poisonous gas that some of the places of Europe just became completely useless, as in soil. Of course, right now the ground has healed itself, but at that time it was. So we don't need to watch all the video. I just want to show you some of the aspects of the war. So what I'll be talking about next is some major events in the war. Of course, what started was the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria on June 20, 1914. And after that, just after a month, the Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia. And that's what it all started, how it all came. So Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia on August the 4th, 1914. And after that, it was like a domino effect, because the countries that had treaties with Serbia had to help against Austria-Hungary, and of course Austria-Hungary had its own allies. So on August 1, Germany declared war against Russia. On August 3, Germany declared war on France, and United Kingdom declared war on France on August 4. So in just 3 days, Europe was in war. And on February 4th, Germany put a blockade around the UK, where even the neutral merchant vessels would be targeted, which is one of the reasons the United States actually went into the war, because their vessels were also being shot, and I think in one single event, 100 Americans were killed, which really changed the attitude of the American people to the war. Because in the beginning of the war, people were saying, we don't need to get into the European wars. In 1916, the Battle of Verdun began. That's the longest battle in the war, and one of the bloodiest. In the May 31, the Battle of Jutland, the major naval battle of the war. And on July the 1st, 1916, the Battle of Somme, which the first tanks were introduced to warfare. Then we have January 19th, 1917, which there's a Zimmermann telegram from Germany to Mexico. And the contents of the telegram was, Germany was sort of had this offer to Mexico that would say, in case the United States went into war against Germany, then Mexico should help Germany against the United States, and in return, Mexico would get its lost territories from the United States. But it was intercepted by the British, and it was then showed to the United States, which again is one of the other causes why United States wanted to go into war. April 6th is the time the United States entered the war, and then there is the November 7th, the Bolshevik Revolution, which got Russia out of the battles, the war, and it was sort of a huge blow for the Germany and Russian side. Here's the telegram. So it says, on the 1st of February, we intend to begin submarine warfare unrestricted. In spite of this, it is our intention to endeavor to keep neutral the United States of America. If this attempt is not successful, we propose an alliance on the following basis with Mexico, that we shall make war together and together make peace. We shall give general financial support, and it is understood that Mexico is to reconquer the lost territory in New Mexico, Texas, and Arizona. The details are left to you for settlement. Mexico did not help Germany with that. After all, the telegram was decrypted, and it wouldn't be wise to do so. In 1918, President Woodrow issued the 14 Points of Peace, which became the basis of sort of the territories for many countries. The Battle of Cantigny, the first American battle, is on 31st of May, 1918. And November the 9th is the abdication of German Kaiser Wilhelm II. So this is German Kaiser Wilhelm II. He abdicated his throne, and I think fled back to a country in Europe, but I'm not sure which one it is. And he lived pretty peacefully. I mean, he was not. It wasn't like he was killed or punished like sort of Hitler was in World War II. In June the 28th, the Treaty of Versailles ended World War I, and it had such heavy terms for some countries that it would actually cause World War II. This is where they signed it, and this is the treaty.
So we talk about some major American figures in World War I. The first person I want to introduce was President Woodrow Wilson. He's the President of the United States during the World War I. And what will happen in his second term of presidencies? At first, he was not willing to join the war because America was reforming and the economic was growing rapidly. And then, like Muzo says, because the Germans attacked the American merchant ships, and which forced the Americans to join the war. And after the World War, he addressed the 14 points in the Paris Peace Conference. One of the most important point was to establish international organization to solve international disputes and prevent wars. And he called it the League of Nations. However, America was not in the League of Nations because the Congress declined Woodrow Wilson's request to join America into the League of Nations. And because Woodrow Wilson did many contributions to the League of Nations, he won the Nobel Peace Prize that year. And John J. Pershing was the commander of American Expeditionary Force in the World War I. He was, like I said, he was the Expeditionary Force of World War I. And when his army went to Europe, the Britain and France was requesting them to combine their armies with their armies. However, John Pershing declined their request, so Americans formed their independent military group during the World War I. And Ernest Hemingway, he's one of the most famous American writer in American history, and he was also an ambulance driver during the World War One. He couldn't join the army because of his bad eyesight, so he volunteered as an ambulance driver after he graduated from high school. He was a very brave driver, and he saved many people's life, and he also wounded for several times. And based on his own experience, he wrote a book called Farewell to Arms, and he published his book after he went back to the United States. The 69th Infantry Regiment was one of the major regiments during the World War One, and there's a huge casualties, in which 644 people was killed and 2,587 people was wounded. They considered themselves an Irish Corps because most of the people in this regiment was Irish. They had the first combat experience on February 26, 1918, where 21 soldiers died, and this event was memorized in Joyce Kilmer, which is their surgeons, and Rouge Bouquet is the name of the poem. And it soon became a tradition of the Fighting 69s to read the poem at memorial service for the fallen members of the regiment. They fought in many battles, including defense of Lunarville, defense of Anchorville, defense of St. Helens, attack of St. Niels, and Second Battle of Mons. Some of the major figures in the regiment was Joyce Kilmer, Francis Duffy, the other surgeon, and William Donovan, their commander. The 369th Infantry Regiment was part of the 15th Regiment. They're all black soldiers, and they're under command of the white surgeons. However, because the white soldiers were refused to fight with the black soldiers, so the black soldiers cannot fight in the front line and have to labor, do like the dirty works in the army. And then they're assigned to the French army, where they felt the respects from the French soldiers, because the French soldiers treated them with no difference from other French armies. So in the French army, they started to fight in the front line, and they were very brave, and so they won many battles, and they also won many awards after the war. There's also a very, very famous band in this regiment, and they perform all over the army groups during World War One, and they also spread the jazz music to Europe. So here are some of the war impacts to the world and American society. Because people see the destruction that caused by the World War One, they notice the importance of peace. So the peace kind of drives people to form and organize international organizations to prevent another big war happens. So they form the League of Nations. And also during the wartime, the industry production increased rapidly in order to support the war needs. The increase in production also opened up many job opportunities for people. And the woman's social status has also changed during the war because the men left their home and fight. So they left the business and the jobs for the women, and women become a major source of labor. So therefore, in 1919, right after the World War I, Americans assigned the 19th Amendment, which provides women the right to vote. And the technology also improved during the World War I. Because the automobiles and airplanes quickly developed and become one of the a major vehicles people used after World War I. And the radio and wireless communication also increased, and which makes people's life more convenient.
So for conclusion, World War I was the first major worldwide conflict that happened in the 20th century. The United States evolved to the business and helped to change the outcome. And World War I had drastically changed American society. Because before the war, America was not really interested in the affairs of Europe. They were not in the same hemisphere, and America had already some problems in itself to solve, and they did not really care about Europe. But after the World War I, America became really a global power, and they started to become more involved in the European conflicts and its affairs. Other than that, World War I also set the limits for the upcoming wars, because it was one of the first modern one, and the advancements in science were started to use at that time, which we see in World War II is even on a greater scale, like all the neurotoxins, all the tanks, all the airplanes, but they first originated to be used in World War I. And that's the end of our presentation.